Hey everybody, so we are going to cover the last part of Standard 3C. We're still analyzing the causes of the American Revolution, but we're going to look at one specific guy today. We're going to look at Thomas Paine, and Thomas Paine writes a little pamphlet called Common Sense that is going to play a huge role with the colonists in the movement for independence. So we are going to explain the importance of Thomas Paine's pamphlet, Common Sense, to the movement for independence in the colonies. Okay, so Common Sense is a little pamphlet. You can kind of see a picture of it there on the left, and a pamphlet is like a brochure or something, or a newsletter, right? And it's published anonymously. So Thomas Paine did not put his name on this pamphlet when it was first published, and you can see the date, January 1776. So we're getting very close to the Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution starting. We know there's a lot of unrest in the colonies. We've had the Boston Massacre. We've had the Boston Tea Party. We've had all of these taxes placed on the colonists. So everything is kind of in a sense of unrest, right? And the reason Thomas Paine did not put his name on this pamphlet was because basically he's committing treason to the King of England by writing it. And it's what he says that causes it to be treasonous, okay? So it's published anonymously, January 1776. 100,000 copies are printed at first. So we got 13 colonies. You have 100,000 copies that are kind of distributed amongst everybody, right? And what they say is that pretty much every American colonist either read it themselves or they heard someone else read it. Okay, so amongst all these people living in the colonies, 100,000 copies, basically they think every colonist either read it or heard it, okay? Now, why was it so effective? Because you know there's colonists that are uneducated, that don't know how to read, that don't know how to write, that don't understand things real good. Why is it that this was such an effective pamphlet, okay? One of the reasons why is because Thomas Paine writes it in the vernacular. That's a big fancy word, but basically what that means is he wrote it in plain English, okay? It was very clearly worded. It was in plain English, and so everybody could understand it. Whether you were an educated man or not, you could understand what he was saying. And why that makes it so effective is because, believe it or not, there were still colonists who were on the fence about whether or not they should declare independence from England. So one of the things they say about Common Sense is that it helped persuade a lot of colonists who were undecided about whether or not they wanted to declare independence to go ahead and support it, because it was just so clear and obvious and made so much sense, right? Okay. So let's look at what was actually written, okay? So the title Common Sense, the reason why he labels it that is because he was trying to make the colonists realize that a little tiny island like England, 4,000 miles away, trying to control this massive continent of North America and all its people was ridiculous, right? I mean, it was like, they're a little tiny island nation way, way, way over there. Why are they trying to control this massive nation? It's ridiculous. That doesn't make any common sense, right? So he asked the readers, why are you remaining loyal to a king who clearly passes unreasonable laws and does not have your best interest at heart? He's really trying to appeal to their logic, right? Now, what the weird part is before the publication of Common Sense, most colonists blamed Parliament for their situation. Why would they do that? Because Parliament are the ones passing the taxes, right? They're the ones costing the colonists money. So they're naturally going to blame Parliament, okay, and not the king. After Thomas Paine writes Common Sense, the blame shifts from Parliament to the king. So now people start blaming King George for their situation instead of colonists, okay? Sorry about my printer going off there in the background. So he uses this plain language to get the blame moved from Parliament to the king, okay? And to make them realize that it's stupid for England to try to control America, right? one of the famous lines of his pamphlet is, "'Tis time to part." So the last thing I wanted to show you was this little excerpt from Common Sense, and it says, "Europe and not England is the parent country of America. The New World hath been the asylum for the persecuted lovers of civil and religious liberty." So he's saying the New World, America, has been like the protective haven for all those people from England that were being persecuted, right? They fled over to America, not from, they weren't fleeing from the tender embraces of Mother England, but from the cruelty of a monster, the king, right? This tyranny. And so he says it makes total sense for the colonies to declare their independence from England. And this really was the tipping point that helped most colonists decide to support the cause for independence.